After Zhang Hong left, Lu Xian wasted no time and prepared to go out to seek a solution for the black budworm larvae. Before leaving, he took out a small stone the size of a fingernail and approached the grass puppet. The small stone was pure white with a faint spiritual energy fluctuation. It was a fragment of a shattered spirit, divided from a low-grade spirit stone, which had a wide range of uses for cultivators at his level. Eat and drink well and take good care of the house for me. He inserted the fragment of shattered spirit into the grey grass lump on the puppet's head and earnestly instructed it. With the supplement of the shattered spirit's spiritual energy, the grass puppet emitted a faint spiritual light, as if it had become more energetic. Although he didn't fully trust this slow-witted guard puppet, Lu Xian had no other choice. He could only hope that during his absence, the spiritual plants in the courtyard would be safe and sound. After leaving the house, Lu Xian quickly walked on the cobblestone path. The courtyard where he lived was located in the northern district of Linyang Market, mostly inhabited by cultivators at his level, who harbored dreams of breaking through themselves and changing their destinies. Densely packed in a small area. As for the city center, it was the reserved area for the big families and major powers. Lu Xian rarely went there. It took him a while to adapt to being outside again, looking at everything familiar yet unfamiliar before his eyes. He saw a deep yellow paper bird carrying a cultivator slowly flying low, with feathers of varying lengths on its body, indicating that it had been used for many years. Immediately after, a multi-legged mechanical beast flew past above Lu Xian's head, with around 20 to 30 cultivators on it. The multi-legged mechanical beast was a common means of transportation in the market. By paying a few dozen shattered spirits, one could reach the city center in a short time. There were no restrictions on flying in the outskirts of the market, and there were many similar spirit beasts, flying magical tools, and more in the sky. Occasionally, a streak of sword light would swiftly pass by. Flying on a sword was a cultivator controlling a flying sword, indicating that they were at least at the higher level of qi refining. For Lu Xian's current self, it was a distant dream. He calmed his mind, increased his pace, and after a while, arrived at a gathering place for cultivators in the northern district. The gathering place had many shops and stalls. Although they couldn't compare to the central area, they were more than enough for cultivators at his level. Lu Xian maneuvered through the crowd and quickly found a middle-aged cultivator in a corner. He had a slim figure, and his face lacked flesh, making his cheekbones protrude. He had a mustache on his upper lip, and his eyes darted around, quickly scanning the passing cultivators. Lu Xian knew that his surname was Huang, and he lived not far from his own courtyard. However, if Lu Xian wanted to inquire about something, he needed to pay a certain price. Sensing Lu Xian's gaze, the mustache on Huang's upper lip slightly curled up, forming a smiley face as he approached Lu Xian. Lu Xiaodao. It's been a while. I wonder how I can help you, my friend. Lu Xian responded with a smile. It is true that you have a wide network, familiar with cultivators of various levels in the northern district. Can you introduce a few to me? I have a few requirements. First, they must be at the 4th level of qi refining. Second, they must be proficient in powerful spells that can be finely controlled or possess similar magic tools. Lastly, they must be within the northern district and can be found immediately. Lu Xian explained to the middle-aged cultivator named Huang, while handing over a handful of shattered spirits. He didn't expect to find cultivators with higher cultivation levels, although they might solve the problem of the black budworm larvae more quickly, considering that the spirit firefly grass had already been heavily invaded. If it wasn't resolved in time, he would not only lose one or more spirit firefly grass, but also the white light clusters with unknown rewards when the spirit firefly grass matured. That's why the usually frugal Lu Xian was willing to pay so many shattered spirits and also required that the cultivator at the 4th level of qi refining be found immediately. Everything was for the sake of resolving the black budworm larvae as soon as possible. The middle-aged cultivator took the shattered spirits Lu Xian handed over. And his face showed a much more eager and natural smile. There are indeed quite a few cultivators at the 4th level of qi refining in the northern district. But there are not many who can meet the additional requirements you mentioned. As far as I know, there are 3 nearby. The first is Fairy Lingyun. She has a higher cultivation level and possesses a set of red cloud needles, which she uses with extraordinary skill, meeting both the requirements for powerful killing ability and precise control. Then there is Daoist Qin Ming, who has profound attainments in ice spells. Although his killing ability may be slightly lacking, his control is top-notch. Lastly, there is Daoist Li Su, who is obsessed with swordsmanship and has the ability to turn sword qi into threads. He also meets your requirements. Lu Xiaodao. He informed Lu Xian of the addresses of the 3 cultivators at the 4th level of qi refining. Seeing Lu Xian nodding to indicate that he remembered, the middle-aged cultivator smiled and said, "Why don't I accompany you and introduce you to these 3 fellow cultivators? You're too kind, Brother Huang. But I won't trouble you further." Lu Xian knew that there would be additional charges for that. He thanked him with a cupped fist and turned to leave. He didn't worry that the middle-aged cultivator would deceive him. After all, this was his livelihood, and he wouldn't want to ruin it himself. In the courtyard, spreading bone-chilling coldness rapidly, the black budworm larvae sensed the chilling cold approaching and twisted to break free from the leaf blades. However, their escape speed was slower than the spread of the frost. The black threads froze along with the thin layer of frost. The snowflake-like frost instantly solidified and became hard. With a crisp sound, the shallow layer of ice shards shattered, falling along with the black budworm larvae. A white and tender hand reached out and caught all the shattered ice shards. Wow! Senior Qin is indeed as his name suggests. His frost armor technique is used with extraordinary skill. I admire you. Lu Xian looked at the spirit firefly grass leaf blades that were undamaged under the frost, exclaiming with feigned surprise and admiration. The owner of the white and tender hand was a plump cultivator. He smiled and put the shattered ice shards into his chest. I am fortunate to live up to expectations. While solving the black budworm larvae, I didn't freeze the leaf blades of the spiritual plant. I observed the nearby spirit firefly grass for you,
my friend, and found no traces of black budworm larvae. You can rest assured for the time being. However,
I noticed that the protective power of your small spiritual field is somewhat weak. In the future, it may be affected by similar incidents. Qin Ming, the plump cultivator, reminded Lu Xian. Lu Xian waved his hand. We'll talk about the future later. This time, the compensation is 6 spirit stones and 50 shattered spirits. As agreed before, the value of a spirit firefly grass was far less than 60 spirit stones. The reason for such high compensation was mainly to solve the pest problem in the spiritual field and Qin Ming's cultivation level at the middle stage of qi refining. A harmless smile appeared on the plump cultivator's face. Thank you, Lu friend. Qin Ming received the spirit stones Lu Xian handed over, and left the courtyard. Lu Xian felt a pang in his heart as the spirit stones grew farther away from him. He couldn't help but secretly curse. Scheming merchant. After learning about the 3 level 4 qi cultivators from the Huang family cultivator, Lu Xian wasted no time in visiting each one of them. In the end, he chose Qin Ming, who excelled in ice-based spells. It was simply because it was the most cost-effective option. Among the 3, the Fairy Lingyun demanded the highest price, asking for 10 spiritual stones, which scared Lu Xian away. Next was Li Su, who specialized in sword chi manipulation. And he asked for 9 spiritual stones. Qin Ming, on the other hand, was the cheapest, only requiring 7 spiritual stones. Lu Xian didn't hesitate and immediately chose Qin Ming. On the way, he bargained with Qin Ming and managed to reduce his compensation by 50 broken spiritual stones, saving half a spiritual stone. However, this cheap option was only relative to the other 2 cultivators. Keep in mind that Lu Xian had rented the courtyard with a spiritual field for 5 spiritual stones per month. In just a short moment, he had spent more than a month's worth of expenses, which made Lu Xian feel a pang of heartache. Fortunately, he successfully dealt with the issue of the black budworm larvae. He hoped that the restored white light orbs of the spirit firegrass would bring him generous rewards. His focus was on the spirit firegrass that was being corroded by the black threads. A thought flashed in his mind. A sudden tremor. Feeling empty as if something disappeared from my body. Urgently needing to replenish nutrients. What a strange state. Lu Xian couldn't help but comment. And his spiritual energy surged within him, seeping into them. After 3 consecutive uses of the spiritual rain spell, the depleted spirit firegrass had mostly recovered. Lu Xian took a tour around the small courtyard and learned about the real-time status of the remaining spirit firegrass and the 2 moon-eroding trees. Once he confirmed that everything was fine, he entered the house with peace of mind. The next day, early in the morning, without even washing up, Lu Xian hurriedly arrived next to the spirit firegrass. He pinched the leaves and flipped them over. The black threads that had lingered for the past few days finally disappeared. He let out a sigh of relief, and a faint smile involuntarily appeared on his face. After a round of the spiritual rain spell, Lu Xian carefully examined the spiritual plants in the spiritual field. He noticed that the progress bars beneath 3 spirit firegrass had reached full. His consciousness focused on them. Ordinary quality spirit firegrass *2. Good quality spirit firegrass. Good quality spirit firegrass. Lu Xian noticed the subtle differences between the 3 spirit firegrass. This cultivation system only appeared after he harvested the first spirit firegrass. So he didn't know the quality of the first mature spirit firegrass. He carefully picked the spirit firegrass with a faint fluorescent glow. And 3 white light orbs silently appeared in its place, shimmering slightly, seemingly attracting Lu Xian to pick them up. Harvested 1 spirit firegrass. Obtained 3 months of cultivation. Harvested 1 spirit firegrass. Obtained 3 months of cultivation. Harvested 1 spirit firegrass. Obtained the spell Earth Attraction. In the instant Lu Xian picked up the light orbs, he felt a surge of spiritual energy within his body. The surging spiritual power wreaked havoc in his meridians. Once it settled down, Lu Xian realized that he had successfully broken through to the 3rd level of qi cultivation. After days of arduous cultivation and with the slight assistance of the 3 white light orbs, he finally achieved a breakthrough to the 3rd level of qi cultivation. Lu Xian felt gratified. Along with the surge of spiritual energy, a spell called Earth Attraction appeared in his mind. He understood and learned a lot about Earth Attraction from within his mind. After successfully cultivating it, one could manipulate and control changes in the soil structure and adjust the concentration of spiritual energy within the soil, allowing spiritual plants to grow better. For Lu Xian at this moment, it could be considered quite practical. He activated the spell. And under his control, the gray-black soil in the spiritual field slightly swelled, making minor adjustments to the root positions of the remaining spirit firegrass. This ensured a more reasonable distribution, avoiding large gaps or overcrowding. I originally thought that all the white light orbs brought by the spirit firegrass would grant 3 months of cultivation. Now it seems that the same type of spiritual plant can yield different rewards. It turns out that the mature spirit firegrass with good quality brought the spell Earth Attraction. Lu Xian contemplated. The courtyard wasn't large, with 2 moon-eroding trees occupying a small portion of the area. The remaining area was planted with a total of 24 spirit firegrass, of which he had harvested 4 and had 20 more about to mature. Although the spirit firegrass took up very little space, their roots spread widely in the soil. Even with just over 20 plants, it was already maximizing the utilization of the spiritual field soil. Judging from the rewards brought by the good quality spirit firegrass, it was best to improve their quality upon maturity when cultivating spiritual plants. This way, he could sell more spiritual stones and obtain better rewards from the light orbs, achieving 2 benefits at once. With the ability to understand the real-time status of the spiritual plants and the assistance of earth attraction and the spiritual rain spell, Lu Xian was confident in his abilities. He decided to change his usual cultivation method. Previously, he would perform the spiritual rain spell at intervals throughout the day to nourish the spiritual plants. During his cultivation breaks, he would periodically check the spiritual field for any signs of insect infestation. For a low-level spiritual plant cultivator like him, this was already a relatively reasonable way of cultivation. Now that he could understand the real-time status of the spiritual plants, he planned to switch from widespread use of the spiritual rain spell to precise application. Whenever he sensed that a spirit firegrass had a demand, he would satisfy it and do his utmost to cultivate the best quality spiritual plants. Thinking it through, looking at each spirit firegrass in the spiritual field, shining with a vibrant green, Lu Xian couldn't help but feel exhausted but content. As for not having time to cultivate today, he considered it unimportant now. All he wanted was to quietly tend to his plants. After 2 days of hard work, 5 mature spirit firegrass stood before Lu Xian. However, perhaps due to the extended cultivation time, the meticulous care over the past few days couldn't bring about a qualitative change. Among the 5 spirit firegrass, 3 were of ordinary quality, while the other 2 were of good quality. As for the other 2 spirit firegrass of good quality, one also granted earth attraction. After absorbing it, Lu Xian felt that he had a deeper understanding of the spell. The time required to activate the spell was shorter, and he could control the changes in the soil more precisely and effortlessly. It seems that if the light orbs reward the same spell, absorbing them will increase my comprehension. Similar to an experience bar, Lu Xian pondered. Gengjin sword art.